Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, Mrs. Harrow. So this some analyze in novel The Fault in Our Stars. So this will be analyze about the issues and also the comparisons in the novel and film. Let's begin. The Fault in Our Stars, written by John Green, contains an unusual love story. The novel takes the love story concerning teenage suffering from cancer. Green tries to turn down the stereotype that battling cancer is an impressive, heroic, and noble act. The novel shows the fact that the realities of actual cancer patients, instead of the beauty that will be shown, but the grief and pain. The book shows a situation of two teenagers who fall in love, but their relationship is quite complicated by their medical conditions called cancer. Hazel Grace, a sweet 16 years old girl, suffering from the thyroid cancer. The thyroid has spread to her lungs since he was a kid. She eventually meets the boy August, works in a support group for patients with cancer. Augustus Warriors, a handsome boy who is safe from cancer and lost his leg, has got Hazel's attention. It's about exposition. Hazel Grace is a 16 years old who is living with a terminal cancer. Although the growth of her cancer has been slowed by an experimental drugs, Hazel knows her life is pained and is limited. Her breathing is severely limited due to the cancer in her lungs, and she breathes with the help of the portable oxygen tank and tubes. In fact, a great deal of the exposition has to do with the very depressing topic of what it's like to be a teenager with a terminal illness. So, as we get introduced to Hazel, we get to see the ins and outs of a day with cancer, being hovered over obsessively by one's parents, survive in a life, and going to support group in the basement of a crunch. The second is about conflict. Hazel makes friends with a cancer survivor named August, but does not want to become romantically involved with him to avoid breaking his heart when she dies. The third is rising action. Hazel and August grow closer together through a shared love of the book and Imperial Affliction by Peter Van Houten. They write to Van Houten to find out the details of his unfinished ending. And when he refuses to tell them, they plan a trip to visit him. August starts corresponding with Hazel's favorite writer. They get an invitation to go to Amsterdam and learn more about the ending of Hazel's favorite book. It's about climax. Hazel and August are disappointed by Peter van Houten in Amsterdam, but they grow closer together as a result of the trip. Hazel agrees to begin a romantic relationship with August only to learn that his cancer has returned and cannot be treated. The climax of the novel might as well be called When in Amsterdam, because everything dramatic goes down in the European city. First of all, the things do not go well with Peter van Houten, and there is an explosive scene at his house in which August yells at him. Involving action, as August's health deteriorates, Hazel and Gus grow closer together and help each other deal with their physical and emotional pain. Accordance with August's falling health, poor Hazel has to deal with a heartbreak of watching her first love get weaker and weaker. All she wants is to be there for him, and watching him die takes up her whole life. When August dies, it is unimaginably hard. The last is resolution. August dies, but Hazel is grateful to have loved him and feels comforted by the eulogy he left behind for her. In the end, Hazel is full on mourning August's loss, but she reaches some closure when she talks to Peter Van Houten at the funeral and learns that he had a daughter who died of cancer, which is why he wrote an imperial affliction. That's all the character in The Fault in Our Stars. The first is Hazel Grace Lancaster. The second is August Waters as a Gus. And the third is Mr. Lancaster and Mrs. Lancaster, Isaac and August's parents. The theme is the main characters in the novel are forced to confront that in a way that the young and healthy aren't. Fear of the oblivion. Although everyone will eventually die, as Hazel points out in support group, that immediacy to the terminally ill means that they can avoid considering what comes after death. We start about analysis issues. So the focus of psychological in the main character's conflict as portrayed in The Fault in Our Stars. Use the theory of psychological aspect proposed by Carl S. Bernard. The story is narrated by a 16-year-old cancer patient named Hazel Grace Lancaster, who is forced by her parents to attend a support group where she subsequently meets and falls in love with the 17-year-old August Waters. The analysis of the psychological aspect of the main character is divided into emotion, want, and feeling as follows. The first is emotion. The emotions is human being is reflected in the character of the story in The Fault of Our Stars. It is reflected through the Hazel attitude and mind. There are many problems that make Hazel the main character get into the emotional. Look at into the quotation. Even when you die, I will still be your mom, Hazel. I won't stop being your mom. Have you stopped loving us? Hazel, mommy state. Hazel shook. So, well then, how could I stop loving you? It is, Hazel said. Okay, I want you guys to have a life, Hazel, mommy said. I worry that you won't have a life, that you will sit around here all day with no me to look after and stare at the walls and want to off yourself. That is, Hazel said. Hazel is afraid of her parents getting no life when she dies someday. Actually, she does not want to leave her parents, but her cancer reminds her that they when she cannot stand with the pain anymore and she will die. Next is wants. Mr. Van Houten, I understand from your email to August that you are not planning to publish any more books. So in a way, I'm disappointed, but I'm also relieved that I never have to worry whether your next book will live up to the magnificent perfections of the original. That is the Hazel said. Your book has a way of telling me what I'm feeling before I even feel it, and I've reread it dozens of times. I want to talk, if you would mind, answering a couple questions I have about what happened after the end of the novel. I understand the book ends because Anna dies or becomes too ill to continue writing it. But I would really like to know what happens to Anna's mom. The email that Hassan has sent to Van Houten above clearly explained that she seriously wants to know the answer to her questions about what happened after the end of her preferred novel. She asks what happened about the other characters because she probably knows that Anna is dead. The last is feeling. Many feelings of Hazel make her fall down on her mind because most of Hazel's feelings she just keeps for her. She cannot express it to the other people or even share it. Look at the quotation. Later, after they given me something. The nurse came in and she was kind of stroking my hand while she took my blood pressure and she said, "You know how I know you are a fighter?" You called a 10-9, but that wasn't quite right. I called it a 9 because I was a 7 my 10. Here it was, the great and terrible 10 slamming me against and against as I lay still and alone in my bed staring at the ceiling. The webs tossing me against the roots to pulling me back out to sea so they could launch me again into the jagged face of the cliff, leaving me floating face up on the water. Underdone it happens when she heard that August is already gone. There is all Hazel feelings. It's about comparison novel and film. The Fault in Our Stars by John Green show a more dominant film script using a reduction process. It brings a difference in understanding by readers of the novel after watching the film as well as by audiences who have never read the novel before. When August and Hazel had dinner together at Orange, the most popular restaurant in Amsterdam. So August confessed his love to Hazel. He said, "I'm in love with you, and I'm not in the business of denying myself the simple pleasure of saying the true things. I'm in love with you." Even though there are so many conversations in the novel, but many conversations are cut off in the film. Also, when Hazel and Gus go to see Peter Van Houten, their favorite writer, in the film, Van Houten's figure is indeed in accordance with the imagined when reading the novel, fierce, but still not obnoxious. When reading the novel, Van Houten's figure is described as being so annoying and heartless that he hurt Hazel, who is suffering from the terminal cancer. Overall, this is because some conversations are omitted. There was a slight differences in the story when they departed for Amsterdam. In the novel, Hazel is the one who picks up Gus his house. But in the different movie, it was a Gus who picked up Hazel then when they arrive at the airport about to fly to Amsterdam. It is not also shown in the film. In conclusion, The Fault in Our Stars novel, the issue is shown by how Hazel gets a lot of words between in her mind. The analysis of psychological aspect of the mind character is divided into emotion, wants, and feelings. The emotion, it is reflected through Hazel Gray's attitude. The wants are mostly about what she wants to know about the whole lots part of her favorite book. The feeling is mostly about her relationship with August and her parents. Film The Fault in Our Stars by John Green shows a more dominant film script using a reduction process. It brings a difference in understanding by readers of the novel after watching the film as well as by audience who have never read the novel before. That's all a lot of the analysis about the novel and film The Fault in Our Stars. That is about analysis, issues, and also the comparison between novel and films. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.